Hello, future designers. Welcome to another episode of Design Dialogues by Mu.S.Ex, where we are exploring architectural careers in futurist India and shifting design perspectives. Today on this episode, we have a very creative force of a man, architect Mehul Sanghvi. Mehul began his journey in 2004 when he graduated from Academy of Architecture. His design approach is very dynamic. No fixed methods, no fixed styles, and no fixed strategy. Instead, he adapts his ideas to the context and the end user. His design projects are a very collaborative effort that invites inspiration from local arts, traditions, photography, cinema, fashion design, and even performing arts. Such is the creative force that we have on our episode today, and let's hear more about his entrepreneurial journey as well as the profession of interior design from the man himself. Welcome to Design Dialogues.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you, sir.
That's quite a dynamic description. You made me look like larger than life.
You are a dynamic man, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so it's lovely to have you, sir.
Thanks.
And if I can just dive right in,
Sure,
I would
absolutely.
love to understand more about interior design in its most core sense. Beyond the luxury and aesthetics, what does interior design bring to the table?
So first, let me just dissect these two terms, luxury and aesthetics. So luxury, I think, is a very kind of open-ended concept, as in it can mean different things to different people.
Mhm.
As in Bombay itself, when you look at our urban context, you have people from various socio-economic backgrounds. As in, while coming here itself, I passed, the Sitco bridge, and under the bridge, there were people who were getting shooed out. They were probably sleeping that night there. So when you talk about luxury, I think for them, luxury would be just having a good bath or a proper toilet. And for someone, luxury could be probably a Hussein or a Raza on the wall. For someone,
Mhm.
luxury could be just a window or private space for themselves. So the concept of luxury is very varied. It's very subjective. And I think when you talk about aesthetics, I think someone might like something and someone would absolutely not connect with what you've done. So that kept aside, I think interior design I think it is definitely a service which is for the elite, for the people who can afford, for the luxury class.
Mhm.
Um, and when we talk about interior design itself, if you look at it in a form of, say, a woven format, it's got various strings and threads. And I can kind of take you through what are the various threads that put it together. So you have a site which forms the context. You have the client who can be probably an individual, can be a couple, can be a nuclear family, can be a joint family. So you have all these minds that are there who have certain aspirations, they have certain needs, certain wants. And then you have a team
Huh.
and they have certain capabilities. And you have time, you have budgets that you need to be confined within. And it is when all these threads are woven together into a particular pattern
Mhm.
is what you would call interior design. And somewhere I think it is interior design is it's a collaborative effort. It's the architect who handholds the entire team, and what you see as the end is just the end product.
Right.
But the entire process is also as interesting as the end product. So
Absolutely.
that's what it is for me.
That's very interesting because the way you bring together these different aspects to
True.
define interior design is something that one can understand after years of experience. For a fresh student or for young professionals, design probably sounds very ambitious in the sense that we're trying to curate a particular experience, a particular spatial quality. But to put it this way, does invite our students to consider the realities of what goes into interior design. I was also excited to learn that you have a cow dung plaster wall at your home.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious, how does that add certain quality and what kind of thought process went into that?
So we've got a couple of walls in our home that are dressed with, cow dung, and it all began with our connection for Krishna, and we were wondering, we wanted something that is special, something that reminds us of him constantly, and we couldn't think of anything better but to have cow dung mixed with the soil from Vrindavan, and a team that we specially arranged from Vrindavan who lived with us for about a week, who with them collectively we applied the paste, we figured out how to mix it and how to apply it. So I know it is beautiful, it adds lovely warmth to the home, but it is a finish with actual love put into it. So that's how, as in.
That's beautiful. Just
And
hearing about it
yeah,
makes me feel the warmth that might that might have brought into your space.
and everyone who comes home is always wondering what it is. It just gives you a beautiful visual texture to the living room.
That's beautiful. How so? This is how interior design brings so much of sensitivity to well-being
True,
and
true. And obviously, you must be aware that cow dung as a material has a lot of interesting properties.
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's antiseptic. It repels your ants, termites, insects. It is sacred. It's purifying. It is an insulating material, so it provides heat insulation and a humidity controller. So I think people should use it. I don't know why people do not want to use it.
All right, that's very interesting, and how passionately you talk about the details of one particular element of your space
Yeah.
makes me curious about the passion that goes into your journey as an entrepreneur. And how did that happen? What were your major challenges? What invited you to kind of take this full-fledged? And what were the roadblocks and milestones along the way?
So, as in, if I look at my life, architecture was not my. Uh, I was more keen on doing automobile design, and I did not get into NID, and at the same time we had the architectural entrance exam, which I did pretty well, and could then select the option college I wanted to go to. So that's how architecture happened. It was default. It wasn't something that I had always thought I will do. But yes, something creative was definitely something I would have liked to do. I am not a very academically driven fellow. So I had the support of my family. They had no issues with me doing architecture. Um, so that was one. I think my childhood had several influences also when I look back now, as in why did I take architecture? So I was brought up in Banganga in Walkeshwar. It's a little sleepy, disconnected extension of Bombay. It's a different time zone. It's a heritage precinct, and my house is right on the banks of the Banganga Tank. And I'm surrounded by temples all around. So I wake up in the morning with temple bells. My evening dinner time, we know it's 7:30 because the Shiv Mandir mein ganti baj rahi hai. So I've always lived with that kind of an atmosphere with these beautiful old temples. Um, a little walk and you have the crematorium, you've got the Dhoti Ghat, you've got people from all different sections of society. So I have friends who've lived in apartments. I have friends who've lived in the slums, who are dhobis, who are um, uh, doodwala, bhajiwala. We played cricket together. So, as in, I also understand how they've lived and how I have been privileged to have space. And space itself is a luxury when we talk about luxury in urban context.
Yeah.
Another very strong influence was my Nana was a civil engineer, practicing architect, and we had this, as in we still have this family property in Sasavne. It's about 45-minute boat ride to Mandwa Jetty from Bombay Gateway, and then a 15-20 minute auto ride. And it's a 2-acre property, Coconut Wadi, with a small house in the center. And this was pretty much touching the beach, which is again a very sleepy, very relaxed beach, almost private. And every holiday was spent there, like a week or a weekend. My entire childhood was with family there. And when I look at that particular structure, it had a kitchen, it had a storeroom, and the front was a large veranda with no walls, no doors, nothing, just had a roof. And that space, the veranda, would become our bedroom in the night. It would become space to lounge in the day. It would become dining. It would become recreational space because we would move the beds aside and play cricket indoors. It had one only piece of furniture was one frame from which a swing was hung. And this space gave us so much freedom. The children, we as children were just anywhere in the land. We could go down to the beach. The parents could see us wherever we were, and we had such beautiful times. But that space kind of left a imprint in my consciousness, as in a home that is not defined. It doesn't have any boundaries. It's the inside and the outside is absolutely blurred. And I somewhere try and see how I can always bring this back into my work. The simplicity, we didn't have like uh, fancy beds. They were just charpais opened up and gaddis put on it, and that's it.
So does the simplicity make a major pillar of your approach in entrepreneurial journey of
Um,
interior
I
design?
I think so. I think so. I think not just in my work. I think also I prefer it in my lifestyle. Yeah.
And how did simplicity or just the multiplicity of using a particular space, how did that impact your like the clients you approached, the projects you took, and how that shaped your milestones in the entrepreneurial journey?
So when we talk about simplicity and we connect it to space, normally, even if you connect it to interior design, you have the shell, and then you have items that you decor your
Yeah.
space with. So normally, what I prefer doing, or the strategy I prefer, is having the shelf as simple as you can keep it. So reduce the number of materials, and then you bring in the personality of the people through the decor items, through the loose items, the colors and the textures through that. And that's a strategy that has worked pretty well.
And do the clients usually respond to this kind of an approach? Because that invites for them to bring a lot of theirs and
So
themselves
there
to the
are two
table.
types of clients. One type is people who are aware of our work. So they come to us because they want something that our work connects with them. And the second type is where you educate them as you move forward. So our process is pretty dynamic. Our work is also pretty dynamic. It's not like we will do only this style and not cater to you if your needs are something else.
Right.
Yeah, our clients are as involved as we are in the process of execution to conceptualizing to identifying the materials we want to use. So over the process, I think everything gets integrated. They are happy, we are happy, and that's how it works.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, it sounds like a very collaborative space where your clients are as involved in the mindfulness
Yes,
of the designs that you curate together.
true.
That's amazing. That's one way to look at.
Yeah. So it is extremely personalized. As in the end, the client is getting what he's happy with.
That's amazing. But the clients, most of us today, we face a space crunch more than the time crunch. Like in cities like Bombay, there are so many space-saving solutions which are coming into play. I recently chatted with a designer who had received this very tight space to explore, and he ended up using a lot of kinetic furniture, transformative furniture, and space-saving solutions, intricate storage solutions that eventually made a even tight space still a very, you know, in a very
Visually,
multifunctional haven.
okay.
So, how are interior designers handling this? Like, how does space saving solutions go beyond just space saving to imbibing a quality and a very functional but aesthetic approach? How does how does all of these concerns fit together, and how do interior designers nail it today?
So I think every client will come with a certain needs and wants, and if you look at our Bombay clients, space is always going to be a crunch.
Yeah.
As in, houses are getting smaller, and our needs and wants are getting larger. So it's always going to be a challenge. Um, I don't know. I think it's from client to client how you deal with uh, how to manage their storage.
Okay.
There is no specific answer or solution to this, but I would advise that the lesser you have, the better it is. You know, and yeah, there is enough hardware solutions that allow you to, you can have collapsible beds, you can have collapsible tables, you have systems that allow you to slide and fold. We've done apartments which are tiny, and uh, one of as in for that one particular apartment, we did a lot of sliding doors.
Hmm.
So spaces open up and spill into the other space.
Correct.
So your kitchen becomes a dining space. The dining space becomes a study. The living space is a living space at a particular hour and becomes a bedroom in the night.
Mm-hmm.
And so on and so forth.
And
As
did you
in,
feel that the space crunch put a creative squeeze, like put a squeeze on your creative energies, or did you feel?
no, I think it gets more challenging, it gets more exciting, it gets more fun. And yeah, as in, you look at it from a positive angle, if you can.
Right, right.
As in, it could get painful,
Mm-hmm.
but take it as a challenge.
Yeah, I mean,
I think there are enough YouTube hacks on how to deal with space. You have that who's that lady on
yeah,
on
she's
Netflix,
wonderful.
the Japanese lady who kind of shows you how to fold and organize your stuff.
Yeah, she is into
So there's
finishing and all
enough
of that as
enough.
well.
You don't need to do design to figure this out. I think you just need logic
That's interesting.
and practicality.
Since we are on this topic, there are a lot of space-saving furniture designs being explored in Japan and that side of the world. Like, but there is not much discussion and awareness in India in the interior design or the furniture design community. So, what do you think is, like, how does that discussion achieve more rigor? Because there is a need to reconcile the solution that is space saving with the practicality of it. Because then there's repairs that come in, then there's a lot of mechanics that go into creating space saving furniture.
I think when you look at traditional Japanese design, and if you've seen enough, you will notice that their spaces are bare. They have uh, screens, very light screens, which probably they don't use any hardware. They just paper screens, and they have matted floor, and most of the spaces have no furniture. So a space is then defined by how you want to use it at that time. You want to study, you sit on the mat. You want to sleep, you lie down on the mat. You want to eat, you sit on the mat and eat.
Multifunctionality again.
Yeah, so as in, it's as simple as that. And if you have too much storage, make one wall which is a dedicated storage. Just use one material, don't highlight it. Let it be.
I think in the name of organization and in the name of mindful compartmentalization, we end up complicating sometimes, right? Because we have so many different storage solutions, so many different spots in the house where different kinds of storage for different kinds of things. But if you can put them all together in a very organized manner, I'm taking inspiration from what Japan is doing, I guess.
As in traditional Japanese architecture is just open plan. As in, if you can implement that, it would be such an interesting avant-garde kind of a interior design project. You can convince your client, have no walls, have storage tucked in somewhere, and have just screens that divide your space. Multifunctional.
So, but very interesting how you talk so much about the simplicity of things. And I'm curious, of course, your childhood and the spaces you've lived in as a child and grown up there, that impacted a lot of your mindset towards these things. But what about the pedagogy and the student training that you received in your education? Do you feel that a lot of your approaches today were shaped back then, or do you feel that you missed something and had to catch up later on by yourself?
There's several things. As in, I can say somewhere practicing interior design for about 7-8 years, I felt highly disconnected with architecture. So I joined as a visiting faculty for 4 years, and I took up the second year architectural design studio. As in that phase, those 4 years were extremely interesting. It exposed me to uh, what the academics has now moved to from what I did.
You see a major difference?
I see some interesting differences.
Okay.
So the first 2 years were normal college, and the next 2 years were the pandemic. So it went online. The first 2 years, the first semester, the design project was home. You have to design your own home architecturally and plan it, and then do the interiors also. But the project was focused on understanding each person who lives with you, and then based on their personality, design their personal spaces, and then that becomes
the
a
home
collective
eventually.
home.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting assignment. And then the second one was even more interesting, because what we did is we took the children to rural settings. And the first year we took them to a tribal village in Maharashtra called Doyapada. And they lived for 15 days with the tribals.
They lived there?
They lived there. Lived as in documented, so you're pretty much living there. And we saw another complete different way of lifestyle, where their homes are like these really dark spaces with barely any windows. Then they have a veranda. Beyond the veranda is a fenced space which defines, kind of marks, this is ये मेरा है. और उसके beyond is the hills, the mountains, the stream, the fields. And all of these guys have not just one home, but two homes. One is where they live, and the other home is in the field. And their homes are dark, dingy, with no storage. All they do is just have one thread, one line, and your saris are hung on it, your kurtas are hung on it, your dhotis are hung on it. सुबह जो मूड में आया वो पहनने का, और थक गए तो अंदर सो जाने का, खिड़की बंद करके. So it's more like the home is like the embryo. You are going back into the embryo and it's only for resting.
So you experienced this as a professor when you were curating this project for the students.
Exactly. And I think it was an eye opener for me. As in, a home is a resting space, and the veranda is where you start connecting with the outside.
The
And your
liminal
home is
space.
not just the dark space and the veranda, but is the entire landscape around. As in, that was an eye opener.
I'm sure because it does sound like something that a designer probably might not receive so much from the projects in Mumbai. Because
Yeah, I think the
yeah, it's a
moment you
different
look
setup.
at a city, you're completely disconnected from nature, from the five elements, from everything. I think it is a very sanitized method of living.
So you received the insight about this particular exploration of home being a resting space and not just, not
I
just a
think
design
in our
space.
city, our homes are pretty dynamic. We do a lot of other things also. With COVID hitting us, we even make our home into a workspace.
Right.
And then the boundaries are not defined, timelines are not defined. You're working beyond your working hours, and your family is there but not there. You know,
Right.
so I just feel cities have their own challenges and difficulties. At least this aspect of teaching taught me about life more than anything. And I feel architecture as a curriculum should be teaching you about yourself and about life. Because I don't see India needing architects. As in, it's just the cities that need architects, it's the cities that need interior designers. बाहर कोई interior designer hire नहीं करते. No tribals had an interior designer.
Correct.
I saw families dismantling their home because their families grown larger, literally removing the brick because it's just bond by mud. So the mud is scraped off, the brick is removed, the mud becomes part of the ground. That same mud is then mixed with water, and a new structure is built in 1 month by 3 families put together. As in, why is an architect even needed in this scenario?
From your sharing, it seems like life experiences taught you more about interior design than
I think
college
architecture
did.
should be something that teaches you about life.
So, but then what do you think is missing in that pedagogical
So
sense?
I feel generally all educational pedagogies are targeting only the head.
Only the head.
Only the head. I feel the heart and the limbs are left out somewhere. You're trying the rest of your practice trying to figure out how do I connect this and how do I connect this. And I see that now a lot of architectural studios or education is providing, where there are workshops where you're actually physically working with the artisan. Say you have a bamboo workshop, you're physically getting involved in touching the bamboo, scraping it, splicing it, turning it, bending it.
So you feel we are headed towards a change.
Yeah, so you're using your limbs, and then how do you connect your heart? As in, what are the subtle aspects of design that you can focus on? Like, for example, when we talk about the Gobar wall, when we have guests come home, they connect with the Gobar wall for some reason. It's got this beautiful visual texture. So, is it just the texture that is connecting you? Is it the material that is connecting your heart to that space? Is it, for example, this space, if you draw this window up, how are you connecting with the outside?
Correct.
How does your feet feel when you walk on sand? How does it feel when you walk on a polished stone? How does the sound feel when you walk on wood? How does a stucco wall feel? How does lime plaster feel? Have you rubbed your cheek against a wall while walking? What does it feel? So that's when you start connecting your heart. When you look at all these subtle aspects of design. And I feel education should have a combination of these elements.
And as
फिर
architect,
holistic बोल सकते हैं.
हाँ, holistic तब कह सकते हैं.
Yeah, because 5 साल they give you different design assignments, and you tackle that, you know.
Do you think कि वो हमारे students को better prepare कर पाएगा for the realities of interior design or architecture?
I think it should be a combination of these three things.
And as architects practicing interior designers, you mentioned your wife, who's the co-founder,
Yeah.
is also an architect, or she's an interior designer?
She's an architect with a master's in architecture and facility management, and somewhere her heart is not so much with design.
Okay.
In fact, she is drifted so far away from interior design. She feels it's too materialistically driven. And she has recently joined the school, and she's teaching the kindergarten students in that school. It's an art player school
That's very interesting.
in
Journey.
Parel, Bombay.
Okay.
And she doesn't mind getting involved in architectural work, but interior work, she's like,
So
keep me away.
so that's interesting. The segregation that you make between architecture and interior design. So how does architects practicing interior design versus interior designers practicing interior design? What kind of difference do you see there?
I personally, this is my realization. I'll just frankly share it. I feel you do not need formal education for practicing interior design. That's my opinion. I think you work 2, 3, 4 years with any good practicing designer, you will learn the trade automatically.
Correct.
I know so many people who are naturally gifted, good interior designers, who are just born with good taste, who understand things, who've traveled so much, and who understand the subtle aspects of design. And I see so many practicing interior designers with several years of practice are far from it, so there is, as in, you really don't need to be formally trained, I feel. Like, I can tell you my own experience, which was I was a little naive, I can say that. But working with Nozer Wadia for 2 years, I felt I could do what he did, and that was good enough for me to take the plunge of starting on my own.
So what advice would you give our students in terms of who are keen on exploring interior design or just considering drifting from mainstream architecture to explore other things? What advice would you have for them?
I think keep exploring. What else? Keep exploring till you've explored enough.
But how do they explore mindfully? Because exploration तो colleges करवा ही रहे हैं.
जितना mindfully कर सकते हो उतना mindfully करो. As in, do what you love and love what you do. Try and see if you can do this.
It's a sweet spot, very difficult to achieve, but it's a sweet spot, and it's definitely something that our students can probably align themselves towards achieving. But yes, the way you talk and so much of your sharing includes so much of poise, and I'm interested. That comes from your spirituality, right?
Maybe.
All right. So just heading towards that, what impact do you wish to see on the world, or what impact do you wish to create in the project that you do, in the world that you live?
I think the advice would be, or at least an advice to myself, is just to be aware and conscious of choices and decisions you take, especially with materials, and the approach you take in your design. As in, over the few years, I think our studio or our practice is more drifting towards using a lot of natural materials, a lot of Indian materials, promoting a lot of Indian handicrafts and crafts, understanding the value of craftsmanship. Like the school that we are currently doing, all our partitions are in mud. We've used this technique called wattle and daub. So it's we're doing some architectural projects where we're using lime as our main bonding material, finishing material. We're trying to reduce the use of concrete. A lot of our materials are local. So, as in we're trying our bit to be conscious, to be as environmentally less impactful, you know. So I think that would be something nice for the students to integrate in their work.
Thank you so much, sir. That's lovely, and I'm sure that the students are left with a lot of insight in terms of how much of an importance mindfulness holds in not just your design, your career, but also in your own life. And if you become mindful in your life, you will experience mindfulness in your work. And if you start doing it there, you will experience it here. So I think it's a lovely, lovely insight to carry. Thanks to architect Mehul sir with us. Thank you so much for tuning in with us for this episode, and stay tuned with us as we release more episodes in the coming week. This is Design Dialogues by Mu.S.Ex, exploring architectural careers in futurist India.